All right, well, looks like I'm about 2 days behind where I want to be, so let's try and get some work done today. Can't believe how distracted I've been lately. All right, so working on the right hand side of the slide today. Have the outlines done here. Got my transfer on the front. We're going to get outlines done here today. And if I can stay, depending on how fast I get that done, I may get the background work done too. But I've got to cut. I've got to be done in about 4 hours. Got church tonight, and then tomorrow we'll get back on it. But right now, I'm all sharpened up, and let's see if we can get these outlines done or I run out of time today. So had a hell of a time yesterday. I was cutting the outlines over here underneath the ejection port, which is always like one of the hardest spots on a 1911. And I was breaking the graver after every cut. It was not a good day to be me. So I'm using a Lindsay Classic and a 105-degree graver. Yep, chipped it right there. Yep, that's no bueno. Sharpen it up real quick. Yeah, still a little bit. Still a little bit more. It's a bigger chip than I thought. Oh. There we go. Let's throw some heels on it. And yes, it should literally only take you that long to sharpen a graver. Get a nice big flare. If you've been at all following along with this project, you know that we're going to get a big eagle scene right here. So these cuts right here separating the eagle scene from the scroll work, they need to be really nice. Well, not that they're all not really nice. They've got to be bold. Yeah, it feels like my center rotation's off. Yeah, we'll figure it out. Let me finish this cut. Dun, 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 dun. Hmm. That'll do. It was off a little bit. All right, back to work. Gotta drink coffee first. I think I'm going to change this one up just a little bit. Yeah, it's a little malformed, but it'll be all right. Now, one thing I learned that it took me a long time to wrap my head around was that even though we're trying to, or I'm trying to make every cut a piece of art in itself. My lines don't have to be perfect because nature isn't perfect, and ultimately what we're trying to do is emulate a natural growth. You know, if you look back at some of my early pieces, I'm trying so hard to make absolutely every leaf perfectly formed. And in reality, it doesn't work that way. Idols acting funny. But in reality, leaves don't diminish perfectly. You sometimes they have little flat spots in them. We try to avoid that, but I'm human too, and of course that's no justification for poor design. Oh, look at that break. That's a good one. My idol's all wonky. Oh yeah, pop that whole tip off. Yeah, it's just delaminated. Well, no big deal. Look at that, gone already. Alright, heals and then get back to work. Just touch on the left side and then polish it. So polishing is just done on a rough piece of leather with some semichrome on it, and mounted to a small backer board. Pretty simple. Tell you what, I wish I'd get my idle straightened out. We just had a pretty massive rainstorm come through. And being in Florida, there's already a ton of humidity in the air. But now there's significantly more. And my Lindsay handpiece is really sensitive about humidity. You're not tracking straight. I mean, looks fine. Maybe it's just me. Alright. Where was I? Oh, let's get you. Ugh. Anybody wonders why this project is taking so long? This is a good example of why. That tip is broken. You know, one of these days, I would love to do a project where I don't have to fight with broken tips. You know, where I'm not sharpening every 2 or 3 cuts. Because I don't think I've had one in like the last 2 years. Every project seems to be the same fight with materials. You know, I mean, it doesn't help that all the guns that I do are stainless steel. You know, it's just it's getting to the point where, as much as I love the work that I do, I don't want to spend my day sharpening gravers. You know, just it's frustrating. I love my work, but at the same time, these broken gravers are really starting to dampen my desire to engrave. You know, for lack of a better way of putting it. And I've listened to everybody's advice. You know, dub the tip on your graver, use bulldozer heels. I've done all that. It doesn't make any difference. Yeah. I know getting rid of the vibration in my floor and in my stand would help, but short of having a floor with concrete, I'm not going to get rid of the vibration. The idle's really starting to mess with me now too. It's just all right. The handpiece is clean. Problem with fighting with mechanical problems is you tend to rush through the job, and that's the last thing I want to do. You know, at the end of the day, I love my work, but I hate fighting with tools. Well, at least I made it a few minutes before breaking it. I'd try some high-speed steel on this gun, but yeah, I gave up on high-speed steel a long time ago. It's just I got tired of dealing with dull gravers. It'll all be okay. Get through this gun, and it'll be beautiful. It'll be everything that the owner wants. It'll be something that I'm proud of. And I'll know that I fought every step of the way to get it done. And, you know, as long as he takes care of it, you know, 50 years from now, if we're all still around, somebody's going to find this series of videos that, you know, showcases the engraving of this gun. Yeah, they're going to understand that I fought for every cut. And honestly, I might complain about my handpiece and complain about, you know, the steel that I'm cutting, but at the end of the day, I love what I do. I love what I do. I just wish I didn't have to fight every second of it. See other engravers that are going through and they'll cut for, you know, an hour and a half, 2 hours, and never have to sharpen. And here I am, you know, doing I would say comparable work. But I'm sharpening every 5 minutes. I consider sharpening going 10 minutes without sharpening even once to be a good day. Oh, by the way, the transfer is only guidelines. You don't have to follow them. Sometimes stuff like this, where I obviously didn't follow the transfer, just gives it a little more life. A little bit of variation is good. So for those of you that are just learning how to do this, tell you what, the one thing that I recommend more than anything that I never did get a chance to do is go spend some time with an engraver who's already been doing this for a while. I didn't get to. I didn't have the money to go study under anybody. So everything that I learned came from YouTube videos. You know, Sean Hughes, um, Sam Alfano's videos, obviously. Um, but go spend some time with an engraver. You know, take some classes. I'm sure there are things that I do that have been easily solved if I had, you know, if I had the money to go spend a week at GRS in Emporia, or even with Ray Cover down in southern Missouri, or Otto Carter, you know, Lee Griffiths. You know, if I could have gone and spent some time with any of them, probably the fact that I break gravers all the time, that probably wouldn't even be an issue. You know, yeah. A lot of the things that I struggle with are things that you learn early on. With me keeping my graver from breaking, that's something that you learn early on. I obviously haven't figured it out. You know, what do we got? 2 more? So the metal's changed. It's softer up here. Alright. Now this guy is going to run up underneath the border. Back to center. Yes, I prefer to go through and cut all my backbones first. I think backbones need to be as close to perfect as possible. And then when it comes to leaves, I have a little bit more freedom to move them around a little bit as I see fit. But the backbone, I'm pretty much locked in with where they need to go. I know somebody's going to ask, well, why did you let the backbone run underneath the border? Well, I didn't purposely let the backbone run up underneath the border. It's the difference between my transfer and the actual shape of the gun. Bob Ross would call it a happy accident. I mean, if you shade this correctly, it'll look like it's literally running up to the inside of the gun. It's a cool little effect. I mean, I kind of like it, but it's a happy accident. I don't worry too much about it. I think it adds to the liveliness. Now we're back into, see, this is a harder steel here than it is up here. So it's going to be a little frustrating here for a minute. If I make it through here without breaking the graver, I'll be really surprised. So here's another spot. Here's why you can't always depend on your transfers. Because no matter how hard you try, your transfer won't always fit your space. Difference in the camera angle, even the slightest difference in the way that you uh, copied your panels. That's why we stress how important it is to learn how to draw, because a lot of these elements you have to learn how to make up on the fly. You can't depend on transfers all the time. So we're coming off of here. That whole leaf is going to be behind here. It'll be kind of cool. Get to a point where it's just not cutting as nice as you think or as you want, but it's not broken. And it's just dull enough. Oh, there's a tiny little chip. Oh, straighten that out. So I'm torn between, I need to get another camera for over here at the sharpening station. I think there's a lot that goes on over here that nobody gets to see. You get to hear about it, but nobody gets to see it. And I'm really torn between what kind of camera to get to go over here. Now, I could either get another webcam, like what I have next to my scope, or another camera that I can just clip onto my shirt. that sees everything that I see from a first-person point of view. But of course, then whenever I'm, at the microscope, it won't see anything except the front of the microscope. That looks good. I mean, the FPV camera, first person view camera, would be pretty good. Be really useful, for everything that I do that's away from the microscope. But as soon as I get underneath the microscope, it's pointless. So I'm really torn. Can't afford to do both. But one of the reasons that I get to engrave is because I've learned how to really limit my expenses. I mean, really limit my expenses. My I've got my total living budget, including where I live, be under $1,200 a month. I mean, that's my house, that's electricity, that's food, car insurance, cell phone, internet. I've cut it down to $1,200 a month. Yeah. And that's how I can afford to spend so much time on my engraving, because I've pretty much learned how to cut my budget drastically back. And, I can honestly say that if it wasn't for some of my friends, my budget wouldn't work. Sometimes, um, when I had to replace my car, you know, I'd never had any credit before. I've never had a credit card, or I had never had a credit card before in my life. I didn't have any credit at all. So of course, whenever I had to replace my car, and how do you do that without any credit? A good friend of mine loaned me the money to be able to buy my truck. Uh, yeah, I'm working on paying him back. But, uh, oh, yeah, see that little pop right there? There's a piece of carbide in there, right there at the end. It's kind of cool when that happens. From the brass scribe. There's a little piece of carbide right there. And it came off of right there. right there. Yeah, it's kind of cool when you can find the piece of carbide that broke off. And at least it makes me feel better about having to sharpen so often, you know. But but yeah, the amount of time that I spend over here sharpening, that's why this one's taking so long. But I know it's got to be annoying for the customer, for the guy that owns it, you know, the amount of time that it's taking me. But I can only work so fast. I can only sharpen so many times. And but because I've budgeted my life around the amount of time that this kind of work takes, I can do that. You know, if it takes me, you know, 3 months to do a gun that makes me, you know, $3,000, then okay, so be it. If it takes me 2 months to do a gun that takes $2,000, so be it. It is what it is. You know, every penny that I make from engraving is cushion for when things go wrong. I hope that makes sense. Now I got 2 more after this. Pop. A little pop is where I'm going to break gravers most often. Yeah, that's one skill I wish I could figure out, is how to pop out at the end of a cut. And not break my delicate gravers. You know. a little bit further in. That'll be background. Just looking at my graver. All right. 3/5 of the way done with this section. Ooh, got that lean going on. Yeah, see, that's pretty. I should change the size of the leaf just a little bit. We'll come right off there. Okay. Said stop for a second and make sure that it was still recording. The owner of the gun, sent me a message last night. I guess I missed it because I don't pay too much attention to my messages right now. But he sent me a message last night, asked me if I had any pictures for him. I'm gonna do one better, and I think I'll send him this video. Send him a link to it anyway. Yeah. I know there's a whole lot more explaining that I do in the video that I couldn't do over Messenger. Now let's bring this edge in. Come to about there. And besides, if he ever decides to sell this gun, and I hope he doesn't, I mean, but if he ever does decide to sell it, having a video record of it being engraved, can increase the value. At least I think it would. At least it would to me. If I were in the market to buy a hand engraved gun, Now because I moved that, then everything else moves down a little bit. This is where it's important to understand the artwork that you're cutting. So if you're just tracing somebody else's artwork, there's a good chance you may not understand exactly what's going on, and you can't modify on the fly. I see a lot of people that are using, generic transfers now. And that's fine if you're doing something like a Zippo, where everything is pretty much the same. Or every Zippo is the same as the Zippo before it. When you're talking about 1911s, very few 1911s are ground on the top the same. Even on the same gun, this panel here can be, a quarter of a millimeter taller than the panel on the other side. And I've done consecutive serial numbered Colt 1911s. I mean, consecutive serial numbers. Two of them where this grind area isn't anywhere close to the same between the two guns. And we're talking guns that were assembled, one right after the other on the assembly line. That looks weird right now, but it'll make sense whenever I go to shade it. Because you're actually seeing two lines that I've just combined into one. What it is this right here is the bottom of this leaf. Then this line right here is part of the backbone for that scroll. And right here is where the transition is. Looks funny right at the moment, but I really wish you all could see my left hand in the camera a little better. I was talking about this with another engraver just a couple days ago, and he was talking about it with one of the old school engravers, and the old school engraver was surprised that this other engraver didn't keep his hand um, on the vise when cutting. And I was like, man, with the exception of moving my vise around to get centered back underneath the scope, most of the time I barely touch my vise. Now, my vise only weighs about 8 pounds, so I can push it around on my turntable all that I need to. But it's heavy enough that I can put it where I want it, grab a hold of my turntable, and then I'm just moving my turntable. I'm pushing my turntable around. I won't touch that vise again until I need to move it. As a matter of fact, I have 2 fingers on my turntable right now, and I can just manipulate this all I want. See if I can. Let's take a second and move this camera out a little bit. If we can. Gotta knock my coffee over. Then that would be bad. There we go. We're gonna put that right there for a little bit. And you guys can get a better view of how I manipulate my vise and turntable while I'm working. I'll try not to pay any attention to it. And all right. Very, very, very light pressure on the turntable. Although the end of the gun's starting to run into me. Tell you what, humidity really makes my my vise stick to the turntable. I built a wooden base for my vise so that my vise just sits flat. This one doesn't have any rotation to it. I can pull the top. I can pull the top half of the vise off and put it back on the ball and give it rotation. But when I'm doing 1911s, you know, you don't need that rotation. Get rid of it. That's one less thing to fight about. Beauteous. So I try to plan out my cuts, so I do one cut counterclockwise and then one cut clockwise and another cut counterclockwise and another cut, you know, back and forth. I guess back in the day, when they used to do this with hammer and chisel, you know, doing it like that could make it more efficient and make it faster. But like I said, I'm not worried about doing this faster. Just that just seems like a smart way to do it. It just happens that way. But it doesn't always work out. Okay, take you off. You get caught on my shirt, then we could be in trouble. Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, looks good. Okay, let's finish up the end of this scroll so I can go eat lunch. Then come back and start doing some background work. The goal was to be able to do the final shading on both sides of the slide last Friday. Here it is Monday, and I'm still doing outlines on the right hand side. But you've all seen why. Ooh, nice big flare. That'll look good. Oh. Get that last cut, and then I'll get that piece out of my finger. Nope. Okay. Thought I had a piece of steel in there. Alright. The big reveal. You guys ready to see it? Right. Acetone. So brush these burrs off a little bit so I don't drag one across this finish. I'd be upset if I did, because the rest of this gun isn't getting refinished. The only thing that we're doing is the engraving on the flats. Oh, that's that whole spot right there. Wonder who that guy was. Why didn't he finish that? He should have done that before moving on to the next one. Gonna have to tell his boss. Big flare. Came out a little bit flat there. There we go. What else? Did I miss anything else? Looks good, looks good, looks good. That all we make up on the fly. Oh, that one cut right there. I don't know what this guy's doing, why he keeps missing all these cuts. It's almost like he has ADHD or something. Big flare. Straighten it back out. Alright. Now, paper towel and some acetone. I'll wipe all this off here. Alright, from here on out, no more transfer on here. Just everything from here on. Made up as we go. Look at that. Smooth, clean, bright. Oh yeah, that'll look good. It's a good match for this. So this is what I cut Friday. And that's what I cut today. If I'm lucky, I'll get to go eat lunch and come back and get a whole bunch of this background work done. Hit that spot right there before I forget about it. I mean, we'll get this spot whenever we do the eagle on this side, but for now, so I saw somebody else doing a corner. The way that they did it was they came in from this direction first and then used the bottom of their graver to form that nice sharp point. A nice sharp point right there, and then came back and back cut this direction, back cut this direction. And it's just made that super crisp, and might be something that I try in the future. Get off there. Something I try in the future, but I'm not going to try that on a project that I'm halfway through with. Considering right now we're looking at it, we're engraved 10 times right now, and that looks crisp. You nobody's ever going to look at it like this. Make it look as best as you can, zoomed in this far. Then here at 10 times, it's going to look phenomenal. All right, break time. We're going to stop there. I'm going to do a whole bunch of background work, and maybe we'll get to start doing some shading tomorrow. All right, lunch is over. Got the camera moved around a little bit. Now we're going to do some background work. I'll show you what I'm using first. So first off, '96 V-Lat. It's just a 96 degree graver, and the bottom is ground flat. So I make all my gravers using the Lindsay templates. So I made this using the 96 degree detailing template. And then to put the flat on the bottom, I use the flat knife combo template to do the flat spot and to do that the little heel at the end. So I'm hoping that provides a little more predictability in my flat. Let's see the other one that we're going to use. It's just a flat. This is a flat made with the Lindsay flat knife combo. And I think that is maybe 1/4 of a millimeter wide at the base. And then, of course, my handy dandy 105. Nothing fancy about it, just super handy. I don't do any relief grinds on my 105, except sometimes I'll do the relief grind at the top here, but the rest of it I don't worry about. You know, this is 1/16 carbide. You know, it's so small I don't need to do relief grinds. If I want to do something really tiny, like some tiny lettering, then I'll do a relief grind, but other than that, it's just extra sharpening steps. So let's just start up here at the front. So I don't like using my 96 flat up against my border lines. just because I want to keep my border as clean as possible. And I'm not really good with that blat yet. But I'll outline everything with the 105. And if I'm lucky, won't break it very much. So all I'm going to do right now is just go through and outline. I'm not really making everything deeper, I'm making it wider. You'll notice my graver is leaned into my background. Being really careful not to touch the edges of the leaves that I want to keep. And I'm trying really hard not to get in a hurry. I've only got about 2 hours, and then we have Bible study tonight. So now we're going to come in with the blat. As far as I'm concerned, that should be ready to stipple. That's clean. So we'll get that with the flat. Get that with the flat. Oh, get up in there. There you go. Just checking to make sure that I haven't chipped the edge. Okay, we'll get that with flat. Start back here. Yep, make sure you stay in focus or you do stuff like that. We'll fix that in a minute. All right. 105. Let's fix that little spot that we ran into. Okay. Grab the flat. Now let's knock down all these little islands. I may have made my flat a little wide. It looks like the 96 Vlat and no furrows is quite a bit faster than the way I was doing it before. And it's flatter. So I think this is going to be my new background process. So outline up against the borders with the 105. And then outline up against the leaves and scroll work with the 96 Vlat. And then come back and knock down the last little bit of islands with the with flat graver. Cool. And if we have to come back and touch anything up, just touch it with the 105. Cool, let's just keep going then. Does anybody else have moments where time just seems to stop? And you just kind of intently focused on whatever you're doing in that moment, and everything just lines up. I think they call it being in the zone. It's kind of where I am right now. Everything is just you get a good rhythm going. You don't really have to think about anything. It's just everything just comes natural, and it just kind of happens. It's almost like you're not in control anymore. It's almost like the task is working through you. I have some people ask me why I like engraving so much. It's because of this moment right here where everything just makes sense. We'll come back and sculpt that a little bit with the 105. Actually, let's do that now. Very good. Back to the 96. Oh, it looks beautiful. Felt slippery though. It's like my 96 is right on the edge of sliding out of control. That little flat spot is just enough to make me really have to concentrate. Real gentle. There we go. Touch that with the 105. Dun, 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 dun. Flat. Oh, there's a spot I missed. So it seems like, and I think I've said this before, at least for me, the key to staying motivated, especially on a job, on a project like this, where the steel is so incredibly tough, at least in spots, the key to staying motivated is to keep my camera running. I don't know, maybe it's the accountability. Maybe it's having a record of the work that I can come back and watch. I don't know, but running the camera seems to help, or at least it has today. Go ahead and hit this. Not entirely happy with that spot right there. Let's see what we can do with that. Because this is the edge of the leaf. Okay, I think that'll be fine. Where's my flat? There it is. Okay. Well, I don't seem to be having a problem with my idle anymore. I don't know what the deal was. No, idle seems to be fine. I mean, I've got it running a little low, but it's actually running right where I like it. Running low enough that I really can't see it. I can't see the vibration in the tip of my graver. But it's just enough that I can barely feel it in my hand. So I know that it's not gonna lurch ahead of me as soon as I go to put it on the metal. You know, that peace of mind, knowing that it's not going to not going to run off on you, it really helps with the speed of getting through, you know, something like background work. which is notoriously slow and boring anyway. Yep, don't run your finger across that. You can be digging stainless out of your fingertip. And I say that and then proceed to wipe my finger across the surface again. And again, just some people just don't learn, do they? Medium-height people. Sergey Danlin. Now that's a guy who can do some beautiful background work. I don't know why I just thought of his work, but man, he gets the most beautiful powder looking finish on all of his backgrounds. They're not textured like we do, or like I do, like most everybody who does Western style engraving. It's not textured like that. And he's got, his backgrounds are just, they look like powdered steel. I mean, I don't know how he gets the finish that he does, but it's on my list of things to learn. Man does some incredible sculpting too. I don't know how many pictures of his pieces I have in my engraving library. Alright. Let's get all the chips off of here. And let's go ahead and stipple all that. So for stippling, I take the ball end off my handpiece, and I use say nitrile plug. This was actually the rubber ball that originally came on my handpiece. I just cut it down and reshaped it, and it slides right on the end, and makes my handpiece really compact and super light. And then this is my stippling tool. It's a double-ended pin vise with a standard engraver stuck in one end and a piece of carbide that I sharpened into my stippling burr. Oh, here, get underneath the scope. And then wrapped it all in black grip tape, make it a little more comfortable to hold on to. Oh, speed that up so it's kind of aggressive. And, so you're probably not going to be able to see anything in the overall view because my hand's probably covering up most of it. Just tight little circles. Oh, I think I'm hitting a little hard. I like an aggressive texture, but I don't like to move any metal around. There's really no need. This background is super flat. Sometimes you just got to do it from two different directions to make sure you get it all covered. We're going to do that right to there. That way it kind of looks like this edge of the This back edge of the leaf just kind of disappears off into nothing. It's almost like coloring in a coloring book. Oh, that'll do, donkey. Oh, I think we'll get to there, and then I need to take a break, get up and move around a little bit. I think I'm too old to be sitting at this chair for hours and hours and hours at a time now. stop there, take a break, and I'll come back in a few minutes.